the issue of different people seeing the same thing yet seeing something totally different, um, it 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 controls the world.
Hmm.
I mean, it causes oftentimes conflicts, war between neighbors, wars in families, wars between nations and neighborhoods, and it doesn't matter because we don't realize that what we know may be wrong,
Hmm.
and maybe the other person's wrong. What they know is wrong too. Then what do? You've got a mess. But it's all so easy to fix if people understand these things and know how the tools, know the tools to undo it. I was telling you about my boys and my family and how they watch me change.
Hmm.
Over the years that they watched me change, it it there was something I used to tell them. We used to have home church. Every
Hmm.
Sunday we would sit and I would talk about the things that I was learning from God. And they got so tired of it. They hated home church because I always talked about the same thing. But I used to tell them, look, one day you're going to thank me because I'm telling you boys, we are going to screw you up. We're your parents and we are going to teach you things that are wrong. We are going to do things that are wrong. But this is when I was beginning to come out of the up and down and having to walk on eggshells. And
Hmm.
so they're watching me change and I'm telling them, but we're going to screw you up. And there's nothing we can do about that because we wouldn't do it intentionally.
Hmm.
But what I can tell you is that I am giving you the tools so that as you get older and you realize we've screwed you up, you will be able to fix it. With
Hmm.
these tools, you will be able to fix every way that we screw you up when you realize we've screwed you up. So you
Hmm.
won't have to blame us because, yeah, we caused it, but we also have given you the tools to fix our damage. And to this day, my boys tell people everywhere that thing,
Yeah.
that tell them, here's what dad taught us. And they still talk about it because it worked. They learned how to to recognize that they were believing something wrong. And oftentimes, when you're believing something is wrong, the only evidence you have that you're believing something wrong is your emotions or your behavior or something like that. And
Hmm.
you'll say, why did I do that? Why do I feel this? I don't understand why I feel it. And that's because you're believing something is wrong, but you don't know that you're believing something wrong. And by looking at my own behavior or my own feelings, that's an indication when things are wrong. That's an indication, okay, I'm believing something's wrong. That doesn't mean I may know what I'm believing wrong. That can get frustrating because I know my behavior. I know that the way I'm perceiving something, that my perspective, that there's something wrong with my perspective. I can know it's because I'm believing something wrong, but something that's not true.
Hmm.
Okay, that's what I mean by believing something wrong.
Hmm.
Believing something that's not true, and I just have to go to God and say, I need help here because it's obvious I am believing something that's not true. You know what the truth is. I need help. There are so many problems I run into
Hmm.
that I know the problem is simply when it's my reaction and my feelings, I know that it's something I'm believing that isn't true. And the thing is, God knows that, and He loves me, and He works with me to teach me what it is I'm believing it's not true, so that I can, and then He teaches me the truth so that I can correct my thinking, and my life changes every time it happens.
Hmm.
Sometimes it'll happen multiple times in a day.
Hmm. Can you give me an example of the tools that you shared with your boys?
Gosh, yeah. We if they're having a problem with anger or with a problem with lust or uh, a wrong desire or something is just eating at them, or
Mhm.
maybe they're anxious. Anxiety is a really big one.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll tell them what you do is you you talk to God about that. Okay, I'm feeling this. You know I'm feeling this, and you know that the reason I'm feeling this is because I am believing something to be true that isn't true.
Mhm.
And Father, I call God Abba because that was the name. The Jews only had one word for father, and that's Abba, short for Ab for short. And that word Abba covered everything, father, daddy, all of it together.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'll say, Abba, I'm struggling with this, and this I know that the result of or the cause for of what I'm experiencing right now is that I believe something that's not true and I don't know what it is.
Mhm.
So show me what's going on. And
Mhm.
I will get out a notebook and I write my A statement, which is what I'm thinking. And
Mhm.
so I really just free throw. And sometimes what I'm thinking is not good, but
Yeah.
I will write it down. It could be a sentence, it could be a paragraph.
Mhm.
And I will look at it and say, hmm, okay, so here's what I'm feeling, and this is what I'm thinking. And I will look at it and oftentimes realize that something I'm thinking, what? If it's like I'm thinking it, but until I hear it out loud, until I hear myself say it or see it written down,
Mhm.
I'm not as alert to it.
Yeah.
I will write down what I'm thinking and then I'll look at it and so often I realize that's stupid. God,
Mhm.
I'm embarrassed that I was even thinking that,
Mhm.
you know? And I
Mhm.
embarrass myself, but nobody
Right.
else knows this is going on, just me.
Right.
And so I look for what I'm believing or thinking or saying to myself or
Mhm.
pondering or meditating on that's wrong, that's not true. And then
Mhm.
I'll say, now what is the truth? And God will always show you what the truth is.
Mhm.
And then whatever the truth is that um, undoes that lie, I start arguing with the lie. I'll say,
Mhm.
here's the lie I've been believing, but that is not true. The
Yeah.
truth is this. And
Mhm.
I will tell myself the truth. And I
Mhm.
may actually do this for several days in a row where I come back looking at the lie and then looking at the truth. And
Mhm.
I'm reprogramming my mind. Is really what
Mhm.
I'm doing. I'm reprogramming my mind to think the truth rather than the lie. And anytime I catch myself, because down the road I may catch myself thinking the lie again,
Mhm.
um, and I may have to write it down again, or maybe I just go back to those notes and I say, no, I've been thinking this and that's a lie. Here's the truth. And I just keep telling myself the truth.
Mhm.
Hence that book, Telling Yourself the
Mhm.
Truth by Dr. William Backus.
Mhm.
And that literally caused a transformation in my thinking. And step by step, lie by lie by lie, I just kept uncovering lies. And so that's one of the keys that I taught my boys.
Yeah.
And, you don't have to write it down. Just for me, it was journaling and it really helped me. And then I had a record of those. There were some of the things that I wrote down. I said, man, nobody can ever know I was thinking this. This is
Yeah.
terrible. This is
Yeah.
ridiculous. So I burned those literally
Yeah.
after I was
Yeah.
all done and I was free of it. I didn't
Right.
want anybody to know I'd ever been thinking in that direction. And I just burned those books.
Yeah. And
But the
then
other ones, most of it was stupid stuff, really silly stuff. The
sure.
vast majority of it was not horrendous. It was, I just, well, it's like my dad. Growing up, my dad had one question that he asked constantly, and that is, son, what's wrong with your mind? Can you imagine what that does to a little boy of six
Mhm.
years old
Mhm.
who his mom and his dad, all the way up until he's in his 30s and 40s and 50s, is asking him what's wrong with his mind?
Mhm.
What was wrong with my mind? They thought there was something wrong with my mind. I have no idea what.
Mhm.
I have no idea. But it did something indelibly in me that, well, there must be something wrong with my mind. And
Can't
so I
trust it.
spent so much of my life trying to figure out what's wrong with my mind. And that just
Mm,
caused me to turn inward and be angry at myself and think I'm
mhm,
worthless and I
mm,
can't be loved and on and on
mm,
and on and on just because of that stupid question. My
mhm,
dad had other things like that, but that was a horrendous experience. To this day, it still affects me sometimes
mm.
because it was being asked me before I was 7 years old.
Yeah,
There was nothing wrong with a 6 or 7 year old kid.
right.
My mom told me I was a happy kid. I was joyful.
Mm,
And then finally she said, "You changed."
mm.
Well, God, if you think there's something wrong with you, then you're going to spend all your time caught up in that type of stuff instead of being a little boy.
Trying to fix it. Yeah.